and 2. They stack the line of scrimmage. There's Dom Hill. There he goes. Dom Hill 40. Dom Hill 30. Downhill Dom Hill. Touchdown. 61 yards.
Smoky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peter Chevrolet.
Medlock, they fake it to him. James Keeper off the left side, breaks the tackle, into the secondary, skips away, and he will score. Touchdown, Duncanville.
Here's David Smoke.
Welcome back to the first playoff week of the Texas High School Football Podcast, brought to you by Peters Chevrolet. Thanks to Randy Peters, peterscars.com. peterscars.com, where you can find the car you're looking for, or truck, or SUV as well. Peters Chevrolet in Longview, Texas. We appreciate their sponsorship throughout the week of this high school football podcast. We're going to hear from Gilmer head coach Alan Metzel today, and a really nice win that they had last week. We always kind of start each week with the perhaps best wins last week. Gilmer smoked Pleasant Grove 55-14. Pleasant Grove, as you know, the last 3 to 4 years, they have been very, very good with Coach Gibson. But Gilmer winning 55-14 to win the district title, and also will be interesting to watch what they can do in 4A Division II. But eventually, well, we'll figure it out, because we know how many good teams are in 4A. And Carthage, of course, the annual, it seems like, champion. That will be fun. They played for the state championship last year. Some other games that kind of popped at me last week. Mesquite beat Tyler Legacy. That's not a big game. But Jamarian Miller, the young man who's committed to the University of Texas from Legacy High School, he is within like 20-something yards of breaking the career rushing record for rushing yards in a season of a kid named Tyrone Ross. I love T.Y. Tyrone Ross was a part of that state championship team for Lee High School back in 2004. Westlake absolutely obliterated Lake Travis. This used to be an amazing rivalry. It still is. But Westlake and Todd Dodge, they're so good. 63-21. Longview played Tyler High School. And Longview's had a couple of bumps this year. Highland Park, and obviously they lost that game, to McGinney North. That was kind of a surprise a couple of weeks ago. They beat Tyler High 49-0 in that game. Ryan and Frisco Lone Star, we thought this might be a shootout, but this is a good defensive struggle. They both played defense too. And Ryan winning 7-6. College Station 41, Magnolia West 20. Thought that was impressive. Coach Huff and his program continue to roll. Melissa, remember, we highlighted them 3 or 4 weeks ago. 17-2 win. Their defense is playing fantastic to beat Kaufman. In a shootout game, Kilgore beat Lindale 65-58. Davin Ryder had over 300 yards rushing. I believe it was 4 or 5 touchdowns rushing, 2 interceptions, and also had 12 tackles in that game. China Spring and Connolly. Last year, Connolly got China Spring, and that game went into overtime, and China Spring has gone 10-0, rolled through the season. 48-7, the Cougars beat Connolly. And Childress in a very impressive win against Canadian, 34-13. One of the familiar names that's out of the playoffs for the first time in forever. In fact, their first losing season since 1976. Judson. Remember, they opened the year with an impressive win against DeSoto. They're missing the playoffs. I say 1976. You know where I was? That was 76 football season. That was my senior year. And Judson back there just wasn't very good. And, of course, we know that since that time, they have been amazing. All right, coming up next, I mentioned Gilmer beat Pleasant Grove and beat them badly, 55-14. Quarterback in Tennyson putting up big numbers. Flewellen, the wide receiver, putting up big numbers. And Gilmer's playing some defense. We'll come back with Alan Metzel, the head coach at Gilmer, longtime assistant coach, with some good stuff with him as the Texas High School Football Podcast Show continues, brought to you by Peter Chevrolet on 365 Sports.
All roads lead to your largest selection of pre-owned in East Texas. 3306 West Grande in Tyler. It's time for a car buying experience you will enjoy at Peters Auto Sports. Cars from ultimate luxury to affordable economy, trucks from work to play to all-out adventure. Come by 3306 West Grande in Tyler or visit us online at Peters Auto Sports and take advantage of our nationwide delivery. It's all here. Peters Auto Sports in Tyler.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with 0 payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Welcome back to Texas High School Football Podcast Show, brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, our good friend Randy Peters and PetersCars.com. Peters Chevrolet in Longview. Alan Metzel, longtime assistant coach at Gilmer, head coach now of the Buckeyes. They played for the state championship last year. That's not a surprise. They have been a part of those many, many times. And joins us. They're really good. The one loss this year was to Carthage, 28-7. And I'm telling you, Alan, jumped out at me. One, that was a competitive game. We know how good Carthage is, and you do as well. But beating Pleasant Grove 55-14, because they've kind of popped up with Coach Gibson and what they've done the last handful of years. How impressed were you with what you did a week ago?
Couldn't be more pleased. You know, it was a great step, I felt like, for our program to establish that level of play. And, we have tremendous respect for Coach Gibson and the program that he has. His success is, obvious. And so we felt like that it was time for us to go up a notch. And I felt like our guys just came out with the physicality, with the level of execution, and the game played out the way we were hoping so.
How much better are you playing defensively this year?
I would say a good bit better. We really worked to adjust, trying to get some more girth on our defense and offensive lines, but specifically on our defensive line, because we know in order to play a long time and to compete with a Carthage who always has a huge line, we had to get some bigger guys over there, and we feel like that unit is playing at a pretty high level right now.
Yeah, you mentioned girth. What was it, a bunch of double cheeseburgers and the great work in the weight room? Is that what that was?
Well, no doubt, a lot of work in the weight room. Some of it is natural. Some of it was a standpoint of, okay, we've got to get some of our O-line guys playing D-line, some of our D-line guys playing O-line, where we were crossing over more as opposed to just singling out some guys that just weren't big enough to match up against those guys from Carthage. So we had to adjust some things.
How much pride does there continue to be? And you hear about hashtag Beast Texas and all that. And I, as you know, Alan, I covered that area from 1981 all the way until 2009 physically, and then still do with my website. How much is the competition and still that pride of trying to represent that area?
Oh, it's through the roof. You know, every town in East Texas, they're going to show up at the games. They're going to be there yelling for their team. They're talking about the game at McDonald's, the men drinking coffee at Dairy Queen. It's almost like religion and in East Texas. And that's part of what makes it so special. You know, you can't go anywhere without everyone being involved. So we take it pretty serious and enjoy it.
Yeah, I know. When I started out in the Lufkin, Nacogdoches area, and of course back then Groveton, Garrison, obviously we're really good, and we're playing for state championships. But I'll always remember when I lived in Longview initially, when we moved to Longview in 1984, you could go down the highway, and you know, and I'm not saying in order because, you know, you had Gladewater and Gilmer, and then you had Pittsburgh and Jefferson and Dangerfield, and Mount Pleasant back then was good, and I know that they've not been as good of late, but I mean, it was insane. And then, of course, it started sprouting off everywhere else. That's almost a murderer's row at the time.
Oh, no doubt. You go down 271, you're going to run into a lot of really talented people. When we play Gladewater, we play Pittsburgh, we know we're playing our kids. They're the same type kids. And, like you say, then you got Longview, you got Mount Pleasant, you can branch out into the Lone Star, Dangerfield area, et cetera. And just so many athletes, Tatum, of course, down into Carthage, et cetera. So it's just a hotbed for athletic ability.
Yeah. Now, this year's team you have has scored 42 points or more in 8 of 9 games. The one game was Carthage. And then also on top of that, and then Pittsburgh 26-13. But you've now scored 50-plus points 4 times in district, and I guess 5 times overall, and basically almost hit 52 or 3 other times. But that's kind of what Gilmer's done, put up a lot of points. Tennyson, your quarterback, Brandon, you send me his stats every week. It's amazing. Flew Allen, what he's done. Your running game gives you so much. You have the offense, but that's also something Gilmer's been known for. Was there a point where you felt like we want to be, and I mentioned the defense getting better, where you had to play even more complementary type football on either side of the ball?
Well, I think that when you're playing teams with the skill level like a Carthage, when you are hoping to get to round 5 and play the Salinas and the Grahams and so forth, you're going to be playing many times outside of Jerry Jones' world. Yep. You're going to be playing in inclement weather. You're going to be playing teams that are big. You can't just count on an aerial attack. And so you better be able to grind some. You better be able to rush the ball. And so we, having Brandon, he's a dual threat guy, no doubt. Our running game this year, our offense has been pretty close to 50-50 rushing and passing in production. So no doubt we're making a concentrated effort to put ourselves in a position where we're able to do both. And regardless of the weather, we're able to put up points.
What did you learn? And, of course, you were a part of some of the magic as well in your long tenure as an assistant coach, and then last year's team goes to a state title. What did you learn under Jeff Traylor, and then also, of course, with what Matt Turner, who's been a part of that staff for a long, long time? What did those guys teach you?
Oh, my goodness. That could take a long time to say all the things. But just to kind of summarize, Jeff had a great vision for this town. And what the mindset of what this town was looking for, and how to get it excited and to get people at the games and stir up that fever pitch, being able to put points up, being able to hustle. One of our key linchpin calling cards is we want to attack and we want to be selfless. We're going to do it right or do it again. And so all those things that we do in our Buckeye Maker, et cetera, those are all the same as they were back in 2000, 2001. So no changes there. Under Coach Turner is the master at detail. Unbelievable at detail. That's why Jeff has him at UTSA now. There's no stone left unturned with that guy. And he can wear out a coach, because you're going to be in that office and you're going to go through every detail over and over and over and over. Every situation, when the ball's on the 22-yard line, what play are you in the end zone with, et cetera. So those are all things that I took from them.
How much fun is it to watch what's happening with UT San Antonio?
Oh, I love it. I tape it every week if I'm not able to watch it when it's going. It's fun for me to try and predict what Jeff's saying in the huddle to his team. And I usually am pretty right. I know him pretty well. And it's just a joy. You feel like it's an extension of you getting to watch them do it. And I'm so proud of them.
All right, so now you start all this trip. You have Mejia, and they have a coaching change with Coach Noel. He was at Midway, and he's there, and they've been through a lot of coaching changes. There were times when Mejia was dangerous, and I know you have to look at every game and look at every opportunity. You're a heavy favorite. How do you keep your players focused, though, on playing and controlling what they can do?
Yes, sir. Great question, and it's every team's challenge. No matter who you play, whether it's a great team or a team that maybe is not as highly favored or whatever the case may be. To me, we made a concerted effort starting back in Gladewater week 1 of preaching the mantra of so-and-so is on the schedule. Mahia is on the schedule this week, but we're playing ourselves. We have a standard of what we expect to play up to in every position. If you're a receiver, it's not just about catching the ball, it's blocking on the backside. It's playing through the whistle as a lineman or a defensive player. There's certain things that we're wanting to grade out at regardless of the opponent. And so you may score a handful of points and win a game and score poorly. Well, we haven't accomplished what we want. And so we're going to continue to preach that mantra and to hold players to that, even in practices right now, regardless of who you're playing. And so far, the guys have bought into it and just had a really fine season.
Gilmer has won state titles, and Gilmer has also played for them and not won. And it's given kind of a hunger, one, to not lose what you have, and also to get back and get what you want. How much did the team get fueled based on the last game against Carthage last year in December?
Oh, my goodness. It was the toughest loss I've ever gone through personally. And the team was, we were so disappointed in the way it turned out. I think we probably maybe have overachieved to get to that place. And then that was a rough day. Seemed like the longest game I ever was associated with. So, when you come off of that, you can look at it and try and avoid the questions, try and avoid the issues, or you own the things that you need to do, and coming together, improving our team chemistry, getting bigger, working harder in the off season, pushing that into your summer workouts and into two-a-days, and allowing a negative to create a positive. I guess it became something that we really focused on. The history is there and it's great. What about when a young boy grows up in Gilmer, Texas, like they do anywhere else where there's been success? How much, like I talked to Kevin Hoffman at Mart, and I know that's the way it is in Mart. I know that's the way it is in many other cities and towns, that they want to grow up and put that Buckeye jersey on. Oh, no doubt. It's the Buckeye jersey, the G on the side of the helmet. We've got a hall down in our field house where you've got pictures of big moments and big games, and they all want to be on that wall. And this summer, when I put up last year's pictures, and I took pictures of different ones and shot them out to the kids who got up there, and every one of them were texting back, that was my goal. I always wanted to be on that wall, So it's definitely a fraternity to get to be a part of. The kids this year, they understand that they have a responsibility to live up to the legacy that they've been given. And so that's a serious thing to them, and they enjoy it. And they also understand there's some pressure with it.
You were given the keys to the car that, again, was built 20 years ago or so, and you, again, were a part of that, just like Matt was.
Yes, sir.
Was there any part of you at all that did not want to be the head coach, and that you probably thought maybe it'd be better to go somewhere else, to not have to be the standard there? I know you long enough to where you said, heck no, this is what I want.
Heck no, this is what I wanted. This was it. That I love the town. I love how people, some people say, do you feel the pressure of the expectation or whatever? You want that. Would you rather, have to go somewhere that where the people, it doesn't matter to them? They're not passionate about it? Absolutely not. So for us, we embrace those things. Yes, there's challenges just like there is anywhere else. But I am so blessed and thankful to get to be a coach in Gilmer, Texas.
All right. Now, I was asked to ask you some questions because, as you know, you've known me long enough where I'm going to do my background on this. How many weddings or funerals do you how many of those do you do during football season?
Well, obviously funerals I don't have a whole lot of choice on.
Yeah.
I have done, I think, 2 or 3 this year. Weddings I've done 2. I try not to do weddings during football season. It's just so hard to work it in, but I made a couple of exceptions due to just long family friends, and they worked out. We were able to do it, but hey, you gotta be versatile sometimes.
When did that get in your mix that you wanted to be able to perform at weddings and funerals? When did that happen?
Well, my dad is a pastor,
right?
all my growing up life. And in 2007, he passed away. We had a church, and I moved into the role as the pastor there. And then so as that's just part of the role that goes with it. Yeah.
Now, I elementary school in Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
Well, in 2000, my dad felt led to for us to do a church plant here in East Texas. And so we literally built the church physically. And he was the pastor. My brother and I helped build it with some friends. And it was just a very small country church. It's grown a little bit since then. Still a small country church, but that's what we're a part of.
That's in your blood, right? I mean, literally, that's in your blood. You went to Harmony, correct?
That is correct.
Harmony High School, which if a lot of time when people see a score, it's Gilmer Harmony because it's attached, obviously, to some sort of a town. Harmony football, they've had some ups and downs. They've had a team or two that was pretty good. What are your thoughts and memories about football at Harmony?
Well, it was a special time. And I tell you what made it special were my coaches. And they're the ones that made me want to coach. And so you're talking about great men who impacted my life, critical moments as a young teenager where they were there to complement what my parents were instilling, to pick me up after tough losses, to tell me that they believed in me, to take me home when I needed a ride, whatever the case may be. Those guys were very special. Jed Whitaker, Phil Holt, Steve Mars, Johnny Moss, those guys, they invested so much into me, and I just knew that's what I want to do.
Steve Mars was a baseball coach too, wasn't he? I remember they had a guy named Doug Lindsay was a baseball player. They made a trip to the state championship tournament.
I was on that team. And
there you go.
Yeah.
I was there, and I can't remember, but I do remember that I was there. I was filming that for Channel 7, right. And that makes me feel even older now, Coach. I mean, in 1981, I remember driving from Nacogdoches or Lufkin up to Dallas, and I remember listening to a game when Gilmer was playing Yo High School for a state championship game. Cold, dreary day in 1981, and then you look at the long gap to what you guys have done with 7 state title appearances, winning, of course, a handful of them since 2004, and last year playing Carthage in the state championship. Alan, it's great. I'm proud of you, man. Watching you from when you were a young kid at Harmony to what you're doing now. Good luck the rest of the way, and good luck this week against Mexia.
Thank you so much, David, and I really appreciate you. I've always admired you even since I was a player, but even more as I've grown up and just seen how much you truly care about kids and athletics and what it means to our society. And I can't thank you enough for your role. You guys are the ones that impact those kids a lot, but thank you. I love to talk about the young men. Alan Wetzel, the head football coach at Gilmer, the Buckeyes and Mexia this week. And this is the Texas High School Football Podcast Show. We'll look at the best games in Texas coming up next. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet in Longview.
All roads lead to your largest selection of pre-owned in East Texas. 3306 West Grande in Tyler. It's time for a car buying experience you will enjoy at Peters Auto Sports. Cars from ultimate luxury to affordable economy, trucks from work to play to all-out adventure. Come by 3306 West Grande in Tyler or visit us online at Peters Auto Sports and take advantage of our nationwide delivery. It's all here. Peters Auto Sports in Tyler.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with zero payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Again, thanks to Gilmer head coach Alan Wetzel for joining us tonight as they get ready for their playoff game coming up against Mexia. And a team that last year in Gilmer went for the state championship and had an early lead against Carthage, and then, well, we just discussed it. Carthage did what Carthage does. Now, we always go to the games based on the rankings of the teams. Now, this is from Jerry Forrest, our great friend, pigskinprep.com. He rates every single team that plays high school football in Texas, no matter 1A, 2A, all the way to 6A, in private schools, TAPS, whatever. And so here are the elite games, and there's really not any, because we're talking playoffs. And so if you're a high seed, you're not going to play another high seed. At least you shouldn't, based on how the brackets are put together. There's a few games where teams are like 8-2, 7-3, 8-2, that are playing each other. But the highest ranked game this week in Class 3A is Abernathy, a 9-point favorite against Friona. And that rank on the right is what matters here. It's a 21. Now, we've had weeks where that number was like 3 because of a number 1 or number 2 ranked team playing each other. Also, Wellington and Vega, that's a 2A game. Wellington's an 8-point favorite down all the way. Hallettsville and Yo. Now, look at the records of Hallettsville. Hallettsville's 8-2, Yo's 4-6, but they play a lot of really good people in non-district. Coach Brashear and his team, now they have struggled. They had that really tough loss when they let Academy get back on them. They have struggled, but that could be a little dicey there. Hallettsville still favored by just over a touchdown, almost a touchdown and a half. Also, a couple more notches down. That Fort Bend Marshall 10-0. Barbers Hill's 5-5, but better than that. Ennis at 10-0 against Denison. In 5A, 7-3. Kilgore is a touchdown, actually a 2-touchdown favorite against Hargrave. 9-1 Kilgore. I just mentioned Davin Ryder, Coach Fuller, the head coach of Kilgore. Longview. It's been a tough year for Longview. They've scratched and clawed, but here they are after their 49-0 win against Tyler High. They're a 6-point pick against Magnolia, coming out of a pretty competitive district. Also, Brock 10-0 against Wall. Wall's got good football history. We know what Brock has done as well. And then we'll go down a couple of notches to Academy, Little River Academy, and Yoakum. That's going to be a heck of a game. Academy 9-1. Yoakum is 7-3. But Yoakum, despite the record that's not as good as Academy, is a 9-point favorite. Down a few more. I mentioned Canadian losing last week. Canadian is an underdog to Idalou, a 3-point underdog, 7-3 and 8-2. That's a really good first-round matchup in Class 3A. Lindale, I mentioned them losing that shootout. Sam Peterson he threw for 300, 400 yards in the loss for Lindale. But through some picks, that game with Lumberton, 2-6-4's Lindale's a 10-point favorite. South Oak Cliff and Everman's a good one. But again, South Oak Cliff still a heavy favorite by 25. Vidor and Chapel Hill, Belleville, Orangefield, a couple more games down the list. And then there's some of those games in six-man football, Class 1A, at the lower part of that screen as well. Thanks to Jerry Forrest and pigskinprep.com. I get a lot of my information from Jerry. He does a fantastic job in how he ranks every single – it's a database. So, you win. He's all the standings, power, rankings, picks. He does a great job, pigskinprep.com. Thanks again to Armstrong Sims for running the mothership behind the scenes. We'll be back again. We'll go into week number 2. Now, think about this. A lot of the state not playing now because the playoffs have begun. Teams have missed the playoffs. And then no matter who made it this week, half of them are gone after this week, and it just continues all the way up until the mid to late part of December. Back at it again for the second round playoff show next week. Thanks to Peters Chevrolet, PetersCars.com, and Randy Peters. I'm David Smoke, and this is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.